nightmares in my head, I fear that the thoughts build up until I can't hear, that my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper.
So, as of today, both lawsuits have been settled. Now, over the last 2 years, I've been forced to defend my integrity and my reputation in a very public setting, but hopefully this is the last time I have to do so.
The ugly and contentious legal battle between former MLB pitcher Trevor Bauer and the woman who accused him of sexual assault seems to be over, but not before we learn some shocking new details. We break down how this happened and what it means with sports lawyer Dan Lust. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Well, we haven't talked about Trevor Bauer in a while, and there is a major update there. So the former Los Angeles Dodgers pitcher has settled his legal claims with the woman who accused him of sexual assault. Now, before we get to that, let's do a little bit of a backup here. So Lindsey accused Trevor Bauer of sexually assaulting her during 2 encounters back in 2021. He was actually suspended for a season. He was playing for the MLB. He actually went to play baseball out in Japan, currently doing that now. Now, Bauer did concede that the two engaged in rough sex, but he adamantly denied these assault allegations. He also filed a defamation lawsuit against Hill. In the suit, quote, that she fabricated allegations of sexual assault against plaintiff Trevor Bauer, pursued bogus criminal and civil actions against him, made false and malicious statements about him, and generated a media blitz based on her lies. He also filed defamation lawsuits against the outlets Bdsm and The Athletic, and The Athletic's former writer Molly Knight. In the lawsuit against Knight and The Athletic, Bauer's attorneys wrote that Knight and The Athletic, quote, defamed Mr. Bauer by creating and spreading the false narrative that Mr. Bauer fractured the complainant's skull. But it seems that Bauer actually lost his lawsuit against Bdsm. The judge dismissed it, and he ended up dropping the lawsuit against The Athletic after they posted a clarification. But let's go back to this lawsuit against Ms. Hill. So Hill countersued Bauer for sexual battery and battery, even claiming that Bauer punched her in her private area. She even tried to get a restraining order against Bauer, but that was unsuccessful. The judge found that her petition was, quote, materially misleading. In a video posted after the announcement of this settlement, Bauer talked about this decision from the judge.
It's extremely rare for a request for a restraining order to be denied because the standard of proof that you need to obtain one is extremely low. So you can make of that what you will.
We are thrilled to announce that Law and Crime has a brand new 5-episode podcast out called Severed Affair, all about the gruesome murder of Shad Therion. Using Law and Crime Network's Gavel Together and ad-free on Wondery Plus. Join Wondery Plus at the link in the description or on Apple Podcasts. Now, you may also recall that Bauer released a video, we covered this in a previous Sidebar episode, where you can see Hill in bed with a sleeping Bauer, and she's right next to him, and she seems to be smiling. There doesn't appear to be any apparent markings or injuries on her face, and this video was taken supposedly hours after the alleged assault. So we have a really ugly back and forth between the two.
Neither of the two are present here. So no non-disparagement, no confidentiality, and no money exchange. So Trevor Bauer walks away financially unscathed other than what he had to pay his lawyers and his own attorney's fees. And he can talk about the case freely. And that's what leads to the announcement yesterday. So I am surprised at the terms of the settlement, which are very rare, very unique. I'm not quite sure of any precedent in terms of settlement, but not really surprised that the case found its way to be resolved.
What does that tell you? Because if he didn't pay her 1 cent as part of this settlement, does it not signify to you that maybe her claims weren't as strong as she makes them out to be? I mean, how is it that she agreed to no payment? And by the way, I should be clear, she was paid. She received a $300,000 settlement from her insurance company. So she wasn't paid directly from Bauer, but she was paid by the insurance company. Why do you think she agreed to this?
It's a good question, right? If you watched, and Jesse, the reason that we're getting together today, Trevor Bauer put out an announcement, right, that we referenced, close to a 4-minute video that's explaining how, the accuser here, essentially, according to Trevor Bauer, kind of put him on a victim list. There's a text that was exchanged or shown by Trevor Bauer purporting to say next victim, colon, a Los Angeles Dodgers pitcher, and it goes on to say he's worth $51 million.
Tell you what, tell you what, let's play those.
Next victim, star pitcher for the Dodgers. A text Lindsey Hill sent to a friend before she ever even met me. What should I steal? She asked another, in reference to visiting my house for the first time. The answer? Take his money. So how might that work? I'm going to his house Wednesday, she said. I already have my hooks in. You know how I roll. Then, after the first time we met, net worth is 51 mil, she said. Bitch, you better secure the bag, was the response.
That doesn't look good. I imagine if this went to trial, that would not look good in front of a jury or a judge.
It wouldn't, and that's to the point, Jesse, why this is surprising, why Miss Hill let this happen. These are, I don't know what other way to put it. These make her look terrible. The only one that's really seen these texts that's outside of Mr. Hill and Mr. Bauer appears to be this judge in California who denied the temporary restraining order. And as you mentioned, right, the judge in that case found Miss Hill's testimony and her texts, as the judge saw in that case, to be, quote, materially misleading. So we've always known there were advantageous texts to Mr. Bauer and bad texts for Mr. Hill. Very odd to get a temporary restraining order denied. The burden there is very low. So we knew the texts were bad, but I think these are even worse than we suspected.
The judge in that case, I'm going to paraphrase a little bit. She said, quote, "Let me be clear. The injuries as shown in the photographs are terrible." She goes on to say, "But petitioner had and has the right to engage in any kind of sex as a consenting adult that she wants to." Then it goes on to say, "She was not ambiguous about wanting rough sex. She set limits without fully considering all the consequences, and respondent did not exceed the limits that petitioner set." So when he says that, that it's extremely rare, like you mentioned, for a judge to basically not grant this restraining order, is his take on this right? He mentioned it in the video. Based on what the judge found here, that was significant.
It was significant. I mean, what this is at the end of the day is it's consensual. Well, I don't want to say consensual act. It's a sexual act between two adults. The issue is it's consensual or not. So, Jesse, to the point that you just raised, we haven't seen all of the text here, and Bauer's saying he's only releasing a small portion of them. So we haven't seen all of them. What the judge is insinuating, what Bauer's insinuating, we have not heard from Miss Lindsey Hill at all. But what this impartial picture that we have seems to show text between two individuals consenting to some form of rough sex. Where a consensual act can go to non-consensual is, hypothetically, and we don't know this to have occurred here, if Mr. Bauer at any point of time rendered Mr. Hill or Miss Hill unconscious and then performed some type of act while Miss Hill was unconscious. By law, you can consent to certain acts while you're unconscious, even if you agreed, right, to be rendered unconscious. In that period of time, you still can't consent to those acts. So that's where we found this kind of gray middle area to be, and that's what the judge seems to be pointing out here, that she maybe consented all the way up here, but that Mr. Bauer did not cross that line if and when she was rendered unconscious. That there is a line here where the consent never was lost. Bauer never performed some act that he was legally incapable of consenting to. Again, that's if you have a consensual act and we never got past those bounds of permissibility, why do we need a temporary restraining order? That's really the point.
I ended up seeing this story maybe a few days ago, and it was intriguing me because there was a woman who was interviewing Lindsey Hill, and you could tell by that interview, the woman didn't believe her. She had her lips pressed and her arms crossed. Lindsey was looking at her because the journalist, she would not let up on her, and she was asking her all types of questions that she couldn't answer and she wouldn't answer. And she was looking at her and calling her all out of her name, everything but a child of God, with the look she was giving the journalist. So I wanted to look into it and see what happened. So I feel for Trevor Bauer. He's a Major League Baseball pitcher. Then he's now in China over this. I personally do not think he should have settled. I know they say people want to settle it and get it over and done with and put to bed. But if somebody is saying that you did something you did not do, I think it would be best to fight it. I think it's because the type of sex that he likes to engage in. I don't think that he wanted to have to release everything that he may have requested or he may like, because that may put a negative light on him if there are certain people who don't like that, even though that's nobody else's business, to be honest, because there's a lot of people who sit up here and pretend like they're not engaging in certain things and they are, and then they'll be super judgmental of someone else. I don't think that he's married, so I think this is a cautionary tale. I mean, he kind of had to learn a lesson here. If a woman is, being agreeable with you, and this is something that's talked about on the internet, how they want you to be submissive, how they want you to be agreeable, how you should be listening to your man, X, Y, and Z. But then we see these stories where these women who are agreeable, these women who do not have questions, they have no boundaries, no standard, they won't push back, and they are agreeable, and they're doing it because there's something that you have that they want, and they're going to give you what you want, that submission, that to be agreeable, to be even perceived as a doormat, whatever it is that they see that catches your interest, or if they hear you say, they will do it, because at the end of the day, they're going to get what they want, and they don't really care about you. And this is, very cautionary of engaging in intimate acts with people that you don't know, people that you haven't vetted. I'm not saying that he is 100% to blame, because you cannot really tell when people are lying to you and deceiving you. They're being deceitful and they're drawing you in. But that is something that could be used against men, because they say that's what they want. Some woman who really don't give a damn about you will then use that for her game. Hey, it is what it is. But he basically did everything right. He should have made her sign an NDA before engaging in this. It sounds like they engaged in BDSM, maybe he was, there is a experience where you will be in the middle of being intimate and being choked or choking someone. And for whatever reason, that gets people off. It's dangerous. And I'm wondering if they had like the little code words when they are close to their limit, or they have reached their limit, or for it to stop before it gets dangerous. It seems like that he talked to her about what he wanted and what she would agree to, what's her limitations. And, it seemed like everything was good and they were compatible to do this. So that's why he engaged. And those messages are damning. I mean, you see what she's up to. We know what she's up to. And it's very easy for someone like her, blonde hair, blue eyes, she can run through them. I wouldn't be surprised after this dies down, she doesn't get her hooks in somebody else, and because they think they would be better prepared. I'm willing to put money on that. But yeah, she was engaging in rough sex, and it seems like with all of the evidence that had been put out, that people are saying like, you consented to this, you came over to his hotel or his home and you were trying to get something out of him. You were okay with this. The pictures that they showed, there was no bruises on her face, there was no bruises around her neck if choking was involved, there were no bruises on her arms, and she was chilling in the bed and he was laying right there next to her. Now to me, and I can already hear people saying, why are you making fun of the situation? I'm not. I don't believe that he did anything to her that she didn't agree with. And if there was some confusion with the limits, it is showing that he didn't go over her limitations and what she agreed to do by whatever evidence was reported. And I really think he should have fought this. I don't even think she would have got that claim. I think this would have been thrown out based on what the judge said pertaining to the restraining order. So I think that, she tried to mess up his career because she didn't get what she wanted. And, she kind of threw some problems in there for him, but at the end he didn't have to pay her, which is very strange to me. And he gets to speak on this, which means the evidence was rock solid, what he presented, that he did not go too far. And this is an issue of women who will say they're down to do something, they're going to do something, they may have different motives, or they are really not down and not about that life. It seems to me that she had done this before, but it is possibly that maybe he was being like extra rough, extra strong, and she wasn't about that life. She couldn't handle it. She couldn't take those shots. She just couldn't. She couldn't take that amount of strength. I mean, I would have thought that she would have said she's hit her limit, but I think he was, giving it to her strong and she couldn't handle it. Which makes you think, what is he really doing? But besides that, this was very crazy, and I agree with everyone who is speaking on this, that this seemed like she was trying to con him out of some money. She, even if she had bruises on her, who's to say that those bruises was not self-inflicted? But like I said, he could have been giving it to her strong and she just couldn't handle it, and hey, it is what it is. But I'll go ahead and leave it right here. Let me know what you think about this story. I will leave the full video of the breakdown in the description box, but I will see you in the next one.